Enjoy the workshop.
Ready to get started? So we can do that. Okay, so sorry about that. Here we are. Hi, my name is Leah. You are here for the serving your ancestors in ancestral healing class. And before we get started, just a couple of reminders that Chicagoland Pagan Pride is accepting donations to sponsor the event, and they are recording this for use on YouTube. So if you want to make sure that you keep your cameras off, you are welcome to do so. My partner, Jennifer Medway, is the presenter for this class. She is off screen today, and she will be sharing with you how to serve ancestors from these traditions. And for most of the class, we'll be giving you a presentation, so we'll have a slideshow going. And then we'll flip back and forth a little bit, and I'll show you things up here. We'll do some demonstrations, and you're welcome to ask some questions at the end if we have some time. So without further ado,
thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And again, you're welcome to ask questions. And we're very grateful that you're here for us to share our traditions with. Okay, so we are going to cover ancestor veneration and healing in Sanse and Puerto Rican Espiritismo. Within Espiritismo, we believe in God, spirit guides, ancestors, and all the other various realms of spirits. Ancestors, spiritual guides, and Loa are all spirits who are accessible to us. Sincista serve these spirits, but we do not worship them. Some of the ways we recognize them is by giving them food, drink, flowers, and gifts, wearing their colors, and recognizing their days of the week and feast days. Ancestors are deceased loved ones who are both related by blood and not related to us by blood. Some examples of ancestors include family by adoption, miscarried, stillborn and aborted children, spouses, partners, close friends, and spiritual family, i.e. related through initiation. Our ancestors love us and help guide us along our paths. It is important for us to gain the favor of our ancestors because they help us heal relationships, remove blockages, provide direction, find lost objects, and teach us lessons. We also work with ancestors because they can be the cause of blockages. So now let's talk a little bit about ancestor altars and setting up also La Mesa Blanca and altars in general in these traditions. In Sanse, we have a basic altar setup that is used as the foundation for other altars. This altar is called La Mesa Blanca, which means the white table, because the table is clean and pure. You can see a photo of our La Mesa Blanca on your slide. Later, we will also show you the altar as we have it set up today. The altar is a portal through which the spirits connect with us. The altar draws the spirits out of the spiritual realm and into the physical realm, where we are able to communicate with saints, spirits, ancestors, and the dead, or los muertos. This is how to set up La Mesa Blanca. Place a small table in any room other than the bedroom. It is best to have an altar table made of wood or stone. If space or privacy is a concern, you may use the top of a dresser, the inside of a cabinet, a closet, or a wooden box. Some families commonly use walk-in closets for their altars so they could be closed off to guests. Mi padrino's family also used common kitchen cabinets, not in the kitchen, as altars to allow for privacy. Cover the table with a white cotton cloth. Fill a brandy snifter, a clear base, a goblet or bowl to the top of cool water, and place it in the center of the table. The water gives the ancestors refreshment because they do not get rest. This gives them fresh energy to be able to move in a forward direction, similar to when we sleep at night. The shape of the vessel is important because it is used for scrying. Scrying is one of the ways to receive messages from ancestors. The shape of the vessel represents the cycling of energy. The final component of the basic La Mesa Blanca is a white candle. It is acceptable to keep an altar exactly like this and do nothing. This setup can be used for all purposes. Nothing more is required, but some people may require more to create a bond with the spirits. This altar form is much easier to keep than more complex altars, as they must be kept clean and the spirits must be served consistently. We'll now cover optional altar components. You may place a metal cross or crucifix on the altar. This is a representation of our connection with the divine. It is a common spirit. You may also place a white rosary upon the table as well as a book, i.e., a prayer book or a Bible. Another optional altar component is a bell. The bell draws the attention of the spirits and raises the vibration of the space. We also place a bottle of Florida water or other spiritual perfumes on our altars to help the spiritual energy flow through. Some choose to place a vase of flowers on the altar. Often the flowers are white or the color that represents the spirit being worked with. Images of spirits are also common on the altar. These can be in the form of photos, statues, prayer cards, etc. Finally, incense are also acceptable upon this altar. As mentioned before, La Mesa Blanca is the basis upon which all other altars are built. The Ancestor Altar contains all of the previously discussed items with a few variations. Instead of one white candle, the Ancestor Altar contains 2 white candles. The Ancestor Altar also contains 2 vases of white flowers on either side of the table. In Puerto Rican Spiritismo, we place 2 candles in 2 vases because we believe that everything is made up of 2 elements, spirit and matter. When working with the Ancestor Altar, we use Florida water to cleanse the self before working with the ancestors. Cleansing is performed by rubbing the Florida water on the hands and arms as one does to warm up. Later, one may choose to place photos of their ancestors upon this altar or on the wall behind it. When first starting out, however, please do not use any photos. It is important to not use photos of living people. Photographs only recently became available and easily accessible. Again, the Ancestor Altar might contain images of our ancestors as well as items from our ancestors or their culture. I often give my mother lemon cookies, pink flowers, and beautifully decorated pink and white cakes because these were some of her favorite indulgences when she was alive. My partner Leah keeps vodka on the altar for her Ukrainian ancestors. There are also items I place upon the altar to honor my African, Nigerian, Hispanic, Jewish, Indian, and indigenous ancestors. Now let's take a look at the La Mesa Blanca on your screen. You can see the central glass of water. Behind it is our metal crucifix draped by our white rosary. We have 2 candles flanking the glass. This is traditional for an Ancestor Altar setup. We also have 2 vases of flowers in the back on each side of the altar, which is also traditional for the Ancestor Altar. We also have our small silver bell and incense burner. Our brandy snifter is in the center of it all and is filled to the top with clear, cool water. Before we move on, I'd like to cover some basic rules for creating and maintaining altars. An altar must be set up in an area of the home where you're able to connect with the divine and the spiritual forces. Do not set up the altar in the bedroom. Energies flowing through the altar can disrupt sleep. It is considered disrespectful to be nude or do anything sexual in front of altars. If the bedroom is the only option for the altar due to space constraints, cover the altar in a white cloth prior to being nude or doing anything sexual in that space. Please always follow basic fire safety and do not cover with white cloth if there is a candle burning. Clear offerings before the altar before they spoil, unless they are supposed to stay for a certain amount of time. Clear off flowers before they mold, smell, or once they have dried. Wash the water glass and fill it with new water. Do this more often if the water gets dirty, cloudy, or bugs land. All items on the altar should have significance. The altar is not a resting place for your personal items. Now let's move on to working with ancestors. Before working with your ancestors, it is a good practice to first deepen your connection with the divine, which is also called God. The process of deepening your connection with the divine helps open up your spiritual gifts that allow you to receive messages from your ancestors. Work on deepening your connection for 2 to 3 weeks. Do so by spending time at your altar at least twice daily. Begin by lighting the white candle and then the incense. Then place the flowers on the altar. Now read from the Bible or from a prayer book. Next, put some Florida water in your hands and rub it on your arms and the back of your neck to cleanse your simple praying. If you have sensitivities, you can use holy water. I recommend a prayer book by Alan Pagan. We often pray 3 Our Father prayers, 3 Hail Mary prayers, and 3 Glory Be prayers. If you prefer, you may also pray the Rosary. Say these prayers to the divine. You may do so by focusing on the cross, the book on your altar, the water, or an image in your mind. If there is a particular image that you associate with the divine or a particular way you imagine the divine looks, you may place this upon your altar to focus on. While praying, focus on divine, noticing any feelings or sensations. Now, speak to the divine from your heart. This communication helps build a connection with the divine and in turn creates a relationship. Begin relaxing the mind and focusing a light gaze on the glass of water while contemplating the divine. Allow your thoughts to flow in and out without concentrating on them. If your thoughts drift off, simply refocus on the water and the divine while paying attention to any thoughts, feelings, or sensations that arise. Do this for 10 to 15 minutes. To close out your session, say your closing prayers, thank the divine, and snuff your candle. After doing this twice a day for 2 to 3 weeks, you will likely have a greater connection to the divine and be more in tune with your spiritual gifts that then allow for better receptivity of messages from your ancestors. To begin working with your ancestors, start by creating a list of all ancestors you know. Select 3 to 5 ancestors with whom you have the best relationship. If you had a poor relationship with all of them, choose the least relationship. Spend the following 7 to 9 days calling upon your ancestors at La Mesa Blanca and waiting for responses from them. To call upon your ancestors, begin by lighting a white candle and cleansing your hands and arms with Florida water. You can say your opening prayers. You can also play or sing songs to them. Try to find one that's really common that I use. So you can play songs to them associated with the spiritismo. You can also sing to them. And then you would say your opening prayers. You may choose to pray from the heart, pray the rosary, or say the Lord's Prayer 3 times, the Hail Mary prayer 3 times, and the Glory Be prayer 3 times. In case you are unfamiliar with these prayers, or it has been a long time since you have said them, here are the prayers. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. This prayer is located in the Bible in the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 9 through 13, as well as in the book of Luke, chapter 11, verses 2 through 4. The Hail Mary prayer sounds like this. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. The Glory Be prayer sounds like this. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Then looking at the vessel of water, focus on the divine for a few minutes. Next, call upon your first ancestor on your short list, saying something like, Hello, Aunt Mary. This is Jennifer. I'm calling upon Aunt Mary. Do this while gently staring at the central glass for about 5 minutes. During this time, you notice any visions or messages. These messages may be seen, smelled, heard, physically felt, energetically felt, or otherwise. Note the messages that arise. Now offer prayers to your ancestors. Any prayers are sufficient. Again, you may pray the Lord's Prayer, the Hail Mary prayer, and the Glory Be prayer. You may also say prayers specific to your family, family's religion, culture. 1 decade of rosary prayers are also an option. If your family's culture or religion had any special prayers, you may pray these. I also pray prayers for my Ancestor's Elevation. Next, refocus your attention on the divine for a few minutes. When you are done, say closing prayers and snuff your candle. Closing prayers can follow the same format as opening prayers. Follow this process for 3 people. Pay close attention to messages, visions, signs, and symbols in dreams and daily life for the next 7 to 9 days. These may be pleasant, surprising, or uncomfortable. Each ancestor has an energetic DNA. The messages are their signatures. Replace whomever has not responded while working at the altar or during the 7 to 9 days with the next close ancestor on your list. No response means that they are not communicating at this time. Ancestors who have moved beyond the ancestral realm and onto the next life may not communicate. Because you do not know who is available to connect, begin your ancestor practice with no assumptions. If you have a long list of ancestors, only work with 7 of them. Perform an ancestor elevation for the ancestors on your list whom you did not work with. I will cover the elevation process later. It is possible for some of these ancestors to show up and begin communicating after the elevation service. Remain open to science for the next 2 to 3 weeks. The ancestors who show up on their own, rather than being called upon, are the ones who need the most work. Honor the ancestors who respond strongly and easily on your altar. Sometimes ancestors may respond in negative ways, Or you may find there are issues they are behaving or interacting. This indicates that this ancestor needs ancestral healing. This is the only reason they are communicating. They will generally move on once healing occurs, at which point it is no longer necessary to work with them. Ancestral healing requires the help of a medium who is not within that ancestral line. Most commonly, ancestral healing occurs with a spiritual service called a misa. This service is also called a reunion of causes because the ancestor who is the source of problems or negativity is called the cause spirit. The misa consists of 2 to 3 mediums. One medium lifts the causes. The second medium acts as the interpreter and mediator of the messages from the ancestor. The third medium oversees the energy currents that come into the space during the service and works to ensure safety within the space. The medium of causes brings the cause spirit into communication. The interpreter works to get to the root of the problems and works out what needs to occur between the caused one and the causer. Negotiation occurs until they reach an agreement or until the causing spirit is willing to let go of the person they are affecting. Sometimes ancestors will cause problems between a person and their spouse or partner because they do not like them based on the spiritual beliefs they hold. For instance, a person's conservative Christian grandmother may cause problems between her lesbian granddaughter and her granddaughter's wife because her Christian beliefs oppose homosexuality. To resolve this, a ritual known as an ancestral marriage must occur. The ancestral marriage requires a medium to communicate with the ancestors of the affected and negotiates an agreement between them. As a general guideline, do not work with an ancestor immediately after they pass. This slows down their process. Give them approximately 1 year to transition. Putting them on the altar too early may slow their transition and cause them to become too attached to what they are missing and prevent them from letting go. It is important to note that because ancestors are not far along in their own growth, they still have limited perspective. Their perspectives broaden as they elevate. However, until then, their opinions and guidance should be considered lightly and not accepted as truth. The Puerto Rican Espiritismo tradition teaches that we are each born with the protection of a guardian angel. Because of this, ancestors are not guardian angels. Ancestors are not concerned with anyone outside of their ancestral line. Therefore, one is not able to do magic for others by using their own ancestors. We honor our ancestors with regular service to them. General ancestor service is a plate of food. General ancestor foods include white rice without salt, boiled chicken, white cornmeal mush, yellow cornmeal mush, bread, coconut, coffee in all forms, i.e. with or without cream and sugar, milk, fish without seasoning, rice pudding, boiled root vegetables cut into cubes and boiled together, and plain spaghetti noodles. You do not have to serve every food and drink listed for general services. One food or drink is acceptable. However, always keep a glass of water on the table. On October 31st or November 1st, we honor our ancestors who are with us with a full service. A full service is set up on a clean table. Offerings for a full ancestor service include all of the general food offerings, a candle, and a glass of water for each plate of food. The service also includes praying the rosary and talking to the ancestors. After completing the service, leave the room and return the following day. Upon returning, eat a pinch of each food, or sip one water Doing so helps align you with your ancestors and strengthens your personal forces. Now we'll move on to Ancestor Elevation. Elevation occurs as a result of resolving old karma. In the Sansei tradition, karma is thought of differently than in other traditions and religions. Karma is an incomplete cycle. Completion occurs when the cycle is broken with what was negative within the cycle. Completion occurs when the cycle is broken and what was negative within the cycle is replaced with something positive. For instance, a person inherits the spirit of anger and aggression from his or her family, and as a result, this person becomes angry and aggressive at work, often causing him or her to lose jobs. Healing the spirit of anger and aggression and replacing it with the spirit of joy breaks the negative cycle, and cycle completion occurs. This completion heals the original karma for the ancestors as well, thus elevating them. The more elevated a spirit is, the more power he or she has to help us. The service helps clear obstacles out of his or her path. My partner Leah will now demonstrate an ancestral elevation service that non-initiates can do to elevate ancestors. This service is passed down through my lineage and it originates from my Padrinos family.
I am unsure if keeping my screen share on allows you to see what we're doing up here. Okay. Hold on just one second. Let me get this off of here. Possible. Okay, I think you can. Can someone confirm that you can see both my screen share and my altar setup?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Then we'll just go back to that. Okay. Okay. So this is a general ancestor elevation service that can be done by people who are not initiated in any of these traditions. So anyone can do this. It's very simple, and it's just to help you as well as your ancestors, because by helping our ancestors, it helps them help us better. So this service is very simple, but it's done over a period of days, and you're able to choose how many days that you want to do it. And it's 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, or 21 days. It's your preference. And so I'm going to tell you the things to use, and depending on how many days you choose to do this working, you will multiply your supplies by that many days. For instance, this will be working for only 3 days because I have 3 books here, which these are used in place of bricks. If you're going to do it for 21 days, you're going to want more books or bricks than this. You want 21. So you will need 1 candle, a glass of water, and some bricks or traditional, but you can use anything. You can use papers that stack up. You can use books. That's what we use. It's the easiest thing to get our hands on. You'll need a rosary. Let me grab this. And holy water. You'll also need a meal, but you won't need the meal until the final day. So if you're doing this for 7 days, you'll use it on the 7th day. So the meal it could be a variety of things. It could be whatever you're having for dinner. It can be something that you know that your ancestors really enjoyed. For instance, if you know that your great-grandmother fixed cabbage rolls a lot, and that was something traditional for your family, maybe you fixed cabbage rolls and some traditional Eastern European dinner or something like that. You can make it a dinner that is like a traditional holiday dinner with all the fixings is totally up to you. Or you can kind of just go by your intuition of what you think might be well loved or appreciated by your ancestors. But then you only need one of those meals and you'll use it on the last day. So you will begin by lighting your white candle. And upon lighting your white candle, you're going to pray to God for the elevation of your ancestors. And you're going to pray to your ancestors for connection to them and for their elevation as well, and for them to open the roads for you, since working with your ancestors and elevating them help us better. Okay, so you will begin by putting down, I'm going to say this is day 1. You'll lay down your first brick, book, paper, rock, whatever it is you've chosen to use. You will lay it down, and you will take your water and you will spill it on the ground 3 times. I'm not going to do this here because we're indoors, but spill it on the ground 3 times. 3 time for once for the ancestors you call upon, once for the ancestors you know, and once for the ancestors you do not know. And you will then baptize your rosary with your holy water. There are no specific instructions for baptizing, but I always use a general prayer, like Our Father prayer, and doing things like this. You lay your rosary out, put your water and your candle up here, and you'll let that candle burn down. You don't have to extinguish it. So you'll have enough candles to last for the duration of your service. Now, the candles can be any white candle. We had little votive candles. You can also use tea lights. This is actually a full-size pillar candle that's burned down. You can use the emergency candle. You can use a chime candle. Anything at all, just a white candle. And so day 2, we go through the same situation. We take the second paper, book, stone, whatever it is you're using, light our candle, we pray, we spill the water on the ground 3 times. Don't have to rebaptize your rosary every time. And you let the candle burn down. On the final day, you will walk through the same steps, and upon completion of your service, you will serve your ancestors the meal that you've made. All of this can be done on an ancestor altar if you have one, or can be done in some corner of your home on the ground. If you're going to do this for a number of days, I think I would only probably be comfortable doing this on a tabletop for maybe 7 days for the height. And beyond that, I probably would want to move it down to the ground just for safety of the candle and everything like that. So this is a very simple, general way to serve your ancestors and to help them elevate, because helping them elevate helps them help you better. And that is it. So I'll turn it back over to Jennifer.
Thank you. This practice of ancestor veneration comes from Espiritismo in Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Venezuela, and is not a foundational component for all ATRs or Afro-Caribbean religions. It is a common misconception that all Afro-Caribbean religions venerate ancestors. Everything we've discussed so far is Puerto Rican. La Mesa Blanca is not used in ancestor service outside of Puerto Rico. Ancestors are worked with differently in Haitian Vodou. Haitian Vodouisans Haitian Vodouisans serve the Loa. They believe that because their ancestors serve the Loa, they are in turn serving their ancestors. They also believe that by serving the cemetery spirits known as the Gede, they are serving their ancestors. They may clean the grave about once a year, but do not give service to the ancestors. They may leave offerings for the dead in the cemetery, but these offerings are general offerings for all of the dead, not necessarily their ancestors. They seek out the dead for assistance in magic. A large 3-part ancestor service and ceremony that they call retirement occurs maybe once every 15 years. Ancient Vaudoisans believe that the ancestor spirit realm is made of water. This realm is not a positive realm. It is somewhat the equivalent to purgatory. Spirits exist within this realm as a result of the way they live their life. Spirits who led a positive life go through the water as a cleansing and naturally pass through to the other side. Those who led a negative life get stuck in the water and have a hellish experience. In order to get out of the water, these spirits often cause problems for or harm their entire ancestral line, both dead and alive. Spirits are only helpful while in the physical realm. Therefore, during the retirement ceremony, the spirits are pulled from the water and put into a jar to be in the physical realm. This stops the negative spirits from causing problems or harm. When they are causing problems for the dead ancestors, this prevents them from being able to help the living. Spirits can be very helpful to the living, and pulling them out of the water can be a great benefit. In 21 divisions, which is from the Dominican Republic, the ancestors are worked with in the mysteries. Altars are not used to serve ancestors. Descendants place services to all of the ancestors on the floor in the corner of a room or on the grave of one ancestor. Service consists of food and a candle that is left for one day. The service is then removed and taken to the cemetery. One may serve their ancestors if they are causing problems or there is an issue with a spirit. One may also serve their ancestors if they are seeking guidance from them. Now, my partner, Sensi Celia, is going to share with you an ancestor oil recipe with 2 simple ingredients that you likely have in your kitchen cupboards. This oil assists with establishing a better connection with your ancestors. You can use this oil to dress the candle in your ancestor altar and as an offering to your ancestors.
I'm going to go ahead and light these up. And I'll walk you through also, again, we have a minute. I'll walk you through the Ancestor Altar. Is that okay, Jen?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So, again, as Jennifer mentioned, this is a super simple oil that you can make. Guarantee you have these items in your pantry. And if not, it's only because you probably recently run out. So, 3 ingredients: olive oil. I have it in an oil bottle. Rosemary and thyme. And we're ready for Thanksgiving. So you just take a pinch of rosemary, you put it in your oil. Really, I guess I say a pinch. You could put as much or as little as you want. Jennifer owns a spiritual store where she makes all the oils and herbs. She makes, we have gorgeous rosaries as well, but Jennifer makes all of the spiritual products that can be used for workings. And when she makes them, she fills those bottles with the most gorgeous herbs, whole roses, beautiful quartz crystals. You could do that too, even if you wanted to add crystal in here, I think, just because it would amplify everything. But so all that to say, you can put as much or as little in this as you want. I'm just shoving it all in here. Rosemarying this oil up. Why not? Makes it really pretty. Put some thyme in there. Can't help but start singing sage, rosemary, and...
You can also put the herbs in first. We did this way because we just had the oil in the bottle, but
Simplicity for TV.
you can put the herbs in first and then add the oil.
So we have the rosemary and the thyme here. And that is really technically all you have to do. But if you want to take it to the level, you are welcome to add rosemary and thyme oil to it as well. So as Jennifer mentioned, you can use this to dress your ancestor candles. You could also use it as an offering to them on candles if you want to give them an offering once a week or on particular ancestor birthdays, or can't remember if you've gotten to it yet or not, but we serve full ancestor service to our ancestors on October 31st, November 1st. So you could do it as an offering to them and then dress a candle with it. You can simply, I'll just do it over here. Some people just do a dab, a little dab and a rub. Some people like to go all in with it, give it a little pour. I like to do a little pour because I will also then, great. I will also then take a little bit more with the rosemary and thyme and dress the candle with it just lightly, not enough to make a fire hazard or anything like that, but to just add the energy to it. So that we have a very simple offering for the spirits there. All right, so there is our very simple kitchen ancestor oil that is well loved by spirits. Okay, and so then Jennifer went over what the ancestor altar looks like.
Sorry,
Yeah, sure.
We usually tell them the other ingredient to make it an incense.
Is it frankincense, right? That's right. So really, really simple. A lot of us who are, within the occult often have various resins laying around, frankincense being one of the more common that we might have. So if you have some laying around, you can take some, crush it or don't, but add that to a little bit of the rosemary and thyme, and it makes a really great incense for ancestors.
And myrrh.
Oh, I forgot about the myrrh. That's right. So frankincense and myrrh together with the rosemary and thyme is a wonderful incense. It smells really good. Okay.
We add the myrrh to represent the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if you just said this, but burning the ancestor incense on your altar prior to working with your ancestors creates an internal environment of receptivity for communication. And she mentioned using the oil and the incense as an offering to your ancestors, and to add the resins to simply burn rosemary and thyme. Before we move on, I forgot to add when you were doing the elevation that eventually your ancestors might ask for different items other than the candle and glass of water for their elevation. For instance, one of my ancestors that I did an elevation just for her, she asked for red carnation. So for her entire elevation service, with all of the books or bricks, I can't remember what I used, but I used a vase of red carnations, and that was specifically for her. So eventually the spirits may modify your service once you have a better means of communication with them. But this is good to start with.
It's a really great time that you brought that up too, because you were just talking about the incense being a method of more open communication with them. And so by having that going, it really does create a bit more of a clear channel of communication. We often utilize incense when we're doing divination with various spirits because that it does help create that connection for communication. So by having, you did this at home, and you were doing some of the ancestor work that Jennifer's mentioned in the class, that might help in receiving messages from them to be able to hear things like Jennifer was just talking about, like their desire for alternative things than what's on the standard altar, like the incarnations she mentioned.
I also sell an Ancestor Altar incense in my store. It contains many more ingredients. These items are highly charged as I pray over them for 9 days while they sit on our Mesa Blanca. So if you don't feel like making your own ancestor items, then you can also buy them from us.
And I think that it's your first favorite incense that you make. I think it's the one that you enjoy the scent the most of.
Yeah.
It's so bright and beautiful.
I really like the scent of the ancestor incense. And then the tetragrammaton, but yeah.
Yeah, and I just realized that I think it's interesting that the two incense that are just the brightest, most incredible scent that you make are both for spirit communication. I think that's really interesting. She's a tetragrammaton incense that's for spirit communication as well. It's not just physically a beautiful incense. It's a solid black incense, but it's also beautiful smell.
With really rare ingredients from all over the world.
She puts incredible research and time and tradition into making all of the products. So highly recommended, just because they're really useful in this work and very well priced for how many unique items are in it. Anyway, okay, so moving on, I'll walk you through. You saw a photo that we took and put on the slide. So just really quickly, though, just the different basic components to the Ancestor Altar. The main, most important is the water. It's the central glass of water. This is the brandy snifter that she mentioned, filled to the top. It's used for scrying often and helps also with receiving from the spirits. Then we always keep a cross on the altar. That's basic with the rosary. Just the rosary, I hang it on there. It seems to be a reasonable place to keep the rosary. 2 white candles. We have a bell. A bell is used for ancestor communication, used to raise vibrations, used to alert, all the things that we often use bells for. To call them. And then we have the incense burner here and to burn the ancestor incense on. Holy water for cleansing.
Or when you're just starting out and you're doing you can burn copal, 3 kings incense, or frankincense.
And then the final component here is white flowers. And again, this is just basic. So if you start doing the work and you hear that something about this needs to be different according to one of your ancestors, change it up. It's whatever they're asking.
Usually it's 2 vases of white flowers for the Ancestor Altar, and you can just use one when you first start with your La Mesa Blanca and planting the vine.
But we just wanted to show what's very basic, because I know a lot of times we get really excited and want to jump all in, and we don't want anything to be overly complicated. It's very simple. And Jennifer, what was it that you said you could? Was it this? You said you could keep it just like this and do nothing more, or was it even less than this?
Yeah, it was less than that. It was the La Mesa Blanca setup that's just like one. Basically, if you at least just have a white candle and a glass of water.
So this here could be all you do. If this is all you have, this is good enough to start. You need nothing more. The next step of basic would be what we have here with the flowers and rosary and all. Okay. Anything else you can think of on this?
I guess not at this time.
Okay. If anyone has any questions, of course, at the end, you're welcome to ask.
I just have a few more things to say.
Go ahead.
If you wish to further your spiritual development beyond working with your ancestors and the spirit people, we recommend Sanse, which is Puerto Rican voodoo. And it's a mixture of a spiritismo and 21 division. So working with ancestors is a large component of Sansei. Sansei assists when opening roads, moving through obstacles, and resolving ongoing challenges and problems in life. If you're interested in Sansei and want to find out if it is for you, the first step is consulting with a sensista. If this is of interest to you, please email me and I will direct you. From this consultation, you will either find out that the spirits call you to be on this path or that they do not call you. If they do, the sensista will tell you of the next steps to take and how to prepare for your first initiation. Though I recommend much study before initiation and spiritual development. The first level initiation connects initiates with head law, helps them move faster toward elevation, removes spirits that are holding them back, and makes them a better medium, so they're able to receive messages from the spirits. There's also a significant amount of training and additional ceremonies one participates in to learn this tradition. Sansei is an oral tradition, and the information is passed down through a lineage. As initiates, we work closely and frequently with a godparent to gain knowledge and secrets. Thank you so much for attending my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to email me at SerpentineSpiritualArts@gmail.com. We have put that in the chat for your. Is there a chat to put that in?
If there is, I'm going to, but it's at least on the screen.
Great. If you're interested in any of the products I sell in my store, Serpentine Spiritual Arts, tune in to our newly released commercial. Actually, I haven't posted that on YouTube yet, but we're about to post a commercial on YouTube. And I handcraft and pray over all of my oils, herbs, and incense. I post new products regularly, customized products for customers as well. You can find us at SerpentineSpiritualArts.com, and we invite you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Serpentine Spiritual Arts. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you found value in my presentation. Thank you.